Hello and welcome. You're listening to the WOW Podcast, and I'm your host, Darshawn McAway, and I have on the line KG Petrone. She has written a suspense mystery novel titled True Evil Never Dies. It transitions and waits. Cycles of Time, Revenge is Mine. I'm so curious to know, why did you decide to choose that particular title?
The title came actually from the killer within the story. The killer leaves these poetic cryptic notes left behind for the detectives, and that was taken right out of one of his notes.
I got a chance to read the first chapter, and, to my surprise, Jennifer Hart and her partner, is it Patrick Jones or is it Patrick Jones?
It's Patrick, just without
Patrick.
the K.
Okay, great. So Jennifer Hart, I'm so curious to know, when you were creating her character, can you describe what she looks like? Because I was so curious to find out, like, what did she look like when you were creating her for your story?
She's probably in her 30 years, she's in her early 30s. She went to college and everything, but to explain her looks, she is, olive skin. She's got dark, long, black hair. She has brown eyes, and she stands pretty tall. She's not a short woman.
Oh, I'm curious to know, what inspired you to write in general?
In general, it was always a way for me to release and kind of heal some of the, traumatic events that have happened to me in my life. It's always been a way to express myself. And being that it's my first novel, it was really, you had to dig in deep to kind of get what you wanted to say out there and just hope that it came out the way you intended, to the readers.
Since this is a book about detectives, what is so appealing about detectives and paranormal activity throughout this story? What's so appealing about that to you?
Well, when I watch or read a story that has both paranormal and detectives within the story, it always makes it a little more believable to me. Just a little more plausible that it could actually, really happen. My goal in my story is to make it as believable as possible with the aspect of the paranormal thrown in there.
So, in a nutshell, what is your book mainly about?
There's a story beneath the story. It's actually about vengeance and hate and, how a very bad traumatic event in your life can just spiral you down into the depths of dark evil, and how the characters are, they all experience that level of hate. But by the end of the book, they all realize that it is actually a forgiving, loving heart that is going to save the day.
I was reading through your WordPress on I guess it's your blog, about what inspired you, and there were two things that stood out to me. One, where you mentioned about domestic violence, and the other portion, and I quote, "I too live with the constant nagging guilt of my past choices." I want to know, are you still in that space, and how did you get there?
That guilt always is with you. I have not found a way to heal from that yet. So it's a constant nagging in the back of your head. My children are in my life. They're all, doing as well as they can be. But it was a traumatic upbringing for them, I'm sure.
So in your book, Cycles of Time, is there a character that reflects that?
Yeah, Victoria, she is in the past cycle of time within the story. That's the part where it's based on true events, because there's a story about a Frances Slocum who was a 5-year-old little girl who was captive by the American natives back in 1700s. And when I read the story, it just, I could relate so much to how the mother of this story must have felt at the loss of her child. And that's what gave me the inspiration for my book. So Victoria is a very big part of my book, but she won't be carried through to the next cycle in the series.
Gotcha. Now, I've also noticed that this is a 31-chapter book.
Yes.
That is a lot. You have a lot to say. So I want to know, where can people purchase your book?
I could be found, my book can be purchased on Amazon in the Kindle shop and Amazon in print.
Okay. Would there be another book just like this one?
There will be another book in the Cycles of Time series. It will be a different villain, but we will also do the dual timeline where we will go back. But this time we're only going to the 1800s. It's going to revolve up to the current day, where simultaneously we're going to be hit with a lot of mess and excitement and suspense and mystery.
Right. What are some hobbies that you enjoy? What do you do in your off time?
Oh, on my off time, I do a lot of thinking. I also enjoy, cooking and playing with my puppy and spending time with my husband and keeping in touch with my family the best I can, because now we're pretty far apart. Everybody grows up and moves to different states is kind of how it goes these days.
So do you write to pay your bills, or do you hope to become famous?
I hope to just entertain. If I could just get a little following and entertain some people, then I'm happy. I don't need to be famous and I don't need to be rich. I just want to be comfortable. I need to be happy. Isn't that what life's all about, just to be happy who you are?
That it is. That it is. Well, you're listening to the Wow Podcast. I'm your host, Darshawn McAway, and we have on author KG Petrone. She has written a suspense mystery novel, Cycles of Time, Revenge is Mine. It could be found on Amazon.com. Just type in KG Petrone. If you want to hear more about the Wow Podcast show, go to wowpodcast.shop. That's wowpodcast.shop, and we'll love to hear from you. Go to the contact page. Let us know what type of book you're coming out with. I'm your host, Darshawn McAway, and live your life like it's your last. Thank you, KG Petrone. Thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you so much.